Be very, very quiet. We're cooking rabbit. Hi guys, good afternoon. Now, today indeed we will be cooking rabbit. It's a traditional Belgian stew dish called indeed, well, rabbit in beer, or in this case rabbit with prunes, which we'll be indeed using, as today I found a cut up rabbit on sale. Now unfortunately it's not a fully whole rabbit to my liking. It's missing the head and indeed the liver and the kidneys, which I do like to add because they provide a lot of flavor. So furthermore, this sauce does indeed share a lot of ingredients with the traditional Belgian beer stew, for which we will indeed be using some brown ale, some Trappist beer, some good mustard, in this case traditional Dijon mustard, a few nice onions. I happen to have some red onions lying around, some stock, again I'm using my homemade demi-glace, and some sweetness. Now in this case we will be adding two things. Some, first of all, peperkoek as it's called, or the Belgian Dutch version of gingerbread, and indeed some dried prunes. This one's optional. If you don't like it, you can keep it out of there. So you do want a nice lovely sweetness in the dish. One thing I will be adding, I had some leftover bits of bacon that I've chopped up, which we will be adding, not strictly traditional but pretty nice in there. So as I said, a lot of the ingredients do resemble our Belgian beef stew. So but enough said, let's get cooking. I want to actually divide up my pieces of rabbit a little bit more. Now this is a personal preference, but the animal already has been cut up, but I do prefer to actually cut it up into, well, bite-sized pieces if you like. So what we will be doing in this case with our shoulder is actually the same as with our chicken. Just feel where you have the bone and just cut along the sides of, there we go, our shoulder in this case. And I do think I am going to actually, there we go, cut up the rib cage a little bit. Again, it's a personal preference. I like to have the pieces a little smaller than they come cut up from the shop. Same thing goes for the thighs. So we feel pretty much where the joint is. We cut around and we basically try to, there we go, pop the joint out of its socket and cut through in a clean motion. First thing we want to be doing is providing some color and, there we go, flavor to our meat. So we're going to be browning this lightly on each side. Well, in this case I didn't have any butter left, so I turned to the next best thing, which is going to be some duck fat. I do love using duck fat for various types of traditional stews, or even very lovely. It's a very noble fat, but it can be used to lovely effect to fry steak or to make a steak. So again, we're going to let this brown about 2-3 minutes on each side just to get some color on the meat, and we can then continue to saute our onions. While our last bits of rabbit are actually browning, we can already add our next ingredient, so our chopped up onions. Again, as for the meat, I definitely don't want to cook this. I just want, as you can see, a little bit of browning on the meat, just to get the nice Maillard reaction working. In the meanwhile, we can already saute our onions in the same pot, just until they get glazy. Our onions have glazed up nicely. We have some lovely crusty foam on the bottom. Time to deglaze. Now I'm not gonna actually deglaze with our beer, but I had some leftover brandy, so just to add a little extra richness, I thought, why the hell not? So just wash our pot, allow this to deglaze for a minute, and of course top up with one beer. In the meanwhile, we can actually, there we go, add our pieces of rabbit back in. Now we can top this off with, again, another beer. So the idea is to, well, I think we're going to use pretty much all of it except for, well, a little bit. One leftover sip for the chef. So, but again, rabbit is pretty lean meat because they are, of course, very active animals that hop around all over the place. Now this makes, for one thing, rabbit meat tends to be pretty tough. So this will have to stew for at least 2 hours. In the meanwhile, we can go about flavoring this. So again, I'm going to be using a good big tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Furthermore, a good healthy sprig of, there we go, thyme. We will add some bay leaf, and unfortunately, there we go, bay leaf. Unfortunately, I can't really see my secret ingredient directly ahead of me, but what we do want to add, or what I do add as well, it's about, well, 3/4 usually of a pot of star anise. So this is definitely not traditional, but I do love it in this dish because it provides, well, a lovely flavor, lovely sweet anise flavor that's not too strong, but especially the scent, I think, makes this dish really pop. So this is my suggestion. And we will also add already a few bits, not all, of our gingerbread. This is again to provide some sweetness. Now, don't worry, gingerbread is actually pretty easy to dissolve, so this will pretty much dissolve straight into our pot. So furthermore, we need some, there we go, stock. Again, for me, about a good big tablespoon of demi-glaze. There we go. So we have, I think I might just add a little bit more, but do be careful. I never actually add a whole pot, but this is about 3/4 of a pot of star anise. It's pretty potent stuff. So again, we want to bring this to the boil and allow this to simmer for at least 2 hours. And of course, don't forget our basic flavorings, which are some freshly ground pepper and some salt. Next part, that will be to finish our sauce. So our rabbit has been stewing away for a good, well, I think 1 hour and 45 minutes. It's already plenty tender, coming off of the bone nice. But what we want to be doing at this very point is just to fish out the meat, because we want to reduce the sauce, bind it somewhat, and at the same time add our last ingredient, which would be indeed our prunes. And I found some leftover raisins, which I will be adding a handful of as well. Now, the reason why we don't add these dry fruits immediately is because if you allow them to stew, they will just turn into mush, and we do want some full fruits in here. So I've added a good handful of, there we go, prunes, and we will be adding some raisins as well. So again, I want this sauce to reduce somewhat, concentrating the flavors. Maybe add just one more prune. And in the meanwhile, or in the same time, I want to check actually for flavoring of the sauce. Because as these fruits are cooking in, they will actually impart some extra sweetness into our sauce, which of course we do want. So we want this sauce to be nice and sweet, which combines extremely well with the rabbit. I'm adding some again, instant roux as well. So, but I want this sauce to still reduce somewhat. Have our fruits indeed cook in some of their flavor, but not indeed fully turn into mush. We've allowed our stew just to cook through for a few more minutes and we're basically, well, done. I would say if you really want to finish this dish, always check for seasoning. So especially salt, pepper, but of course sweetness as well. You want this dish to have a nice little bit of sweetness, not to be sickly sweet, but a nice bit of sweetness to go along with it. Now, I'd advise if you want to serve this up, well, serve with some traditionally mashed potatoes, some croquettes if you like, just a little side salad. That's about it. Serve along that a good bit of your rabbit with some nice sauce and of course some fruits in there, and just, guys, enjoy.